This program only reflects the personal views of the program host and all the individual contributors.
Good evening, this is Newsline. I am Michael Chigani. Tonight, how worried should Hong Kong be about switching to nuclear energy? With me is Richard Lancaster, CLP Power's Managing Director. Thank you, Mr. Lancaster, for being on the show. The government now wants us to move towards nuclear energy, and by the year 2020, the plan is to go 50% nuclear energy. Cut back on coal-fired plants, cut back on fossil fuels, 50% nuclear energy. That's just 10 years down the road. As I said in the introduction, how scared should Hong Kong be?
The government's proposal is not just to increase nuclear energy. The government has actually proposed that Hong Kong should be aiming towards a carbon emissions target. And the proposal is that Hong Kong should be reducing the carbon intensity of its economy by 50 to 60% by 2020.
And you support that? CLP Power supports that?
We certainly support that. We believe that a carbon reduction target is necessary in every economy around the world. And we ourselves have set our own carbon emissions reduction target, which is broadly in line with the level that the government is proposing by 2020. Now, the means by which Hong Kong can achieve such a significant reduction, and bear in mind that Hong Kong already has a relatively low carbon intensity for its economic activities. But the means by which government is proposing is a combination of measures, including stepping up efforts in energy efficiency, reducing coal-fired electricity generation, increasing the amount of gas that we use, and recognizing that gas is only half the carbon emissions of coal. That would be a step forward. But there is still a gap that needs to be met. And with renewable energy being very limited in scope in Hong Kong, the bulk of that reduction would have to come from an increase in the amount of nuclear energy that we use. Currently, we have about a quarter of our electricity provided by nuclear power in Hong Kong.
And that's from Daya Bay?
From Daya Bay. And
which you guys own a little bit, about 20-25%.
We own 25% of the joint venture,
right.
And we take 70% of the electricity from Daya Bay. So to go from 25% to 50% would essentially be replicating,
you're doubling it, right.
Replicating another Daya Bay.
But the thing is that doesn't answer my original question. Whether the government wants to have a low carbon economy, that's one thing, obviously, right? But it still requires additional nuclear energy to achieve that, and you just confirmed that. And my question was, that requires another Daya Bay, like you said. So should we be worried? 2 Daya Bays on our doorstep.
Safety is absolutely a very important concern. CLP ourselves place safety as our #1 priority in all our operations.
A lot of people wouldn't say that.
Well, no, we have said that, and we are recognized in the industry.
Critics don't say that. But critics say that you've covered up 2 radiation leaks in the past 5 months.
There has been no cover-up whatsoever. We have announced not radiation leaks. These are not leaks. I want to be careful that we use these terms carefully.
What would you call it?
It was an event. There was no leakage of any radioactive material outside the power station or even to the employees within the power station. And these events are regulated by the National Nuclear Safety Administration in the mainland and also the International Atomic Energy Agency. They're considered to be at a level on the international scale below level 2. And that means
it's level 1. But there was still a leak of some sort, because it was like equivalent to taking 2 X-rays, wasn't it, for the second one recently, last month?
There was no leak whatsoever to the external environment,
but
to
internally,
the public,
to the workers.
And these incidents are considered to have no safety consequence or no safety significance.
What about to the workers inside who was exposed to it?
To the workers, there are careful management plans to make sure that the level of dosage throughout their entire career is kept to a safe level. And that level is so low that even air crews flying on aircraft are exposed to higher levels of radiation than would be specified
Okay,
to the workers in the
you
plant.
make that argument, but the fact is people may not worry about the two events, as you call it, rather than radiation leaks. But what they are more concerned about is the fact that it wasn't promptly made public. The second one that happened last month was made public after 3 weeks. The first one that happened 5-6 months ago wasn't until the media leaked it, exposed it. Wouldn't it be better for CLP Party to say, all right, it happened, I'm going to let you guys know right away? Why don't you do that?
Absolutely, we agree.
But you waited so many weeks.
We agree that events need to be communicated. They do need to be communicated carefully.
Timely, though.
Timely, but also,
it wasn't timely.
But also carefully. These events are reported immediately to the regulatory authorities, and we have worked with our partners in Daya Bay to communicate all these events. Now, what we're talking about are routine, minor events that have no safety significance or no safety consequence.
Would you want to be exposed to that?
Whatsoever. These events happen in
How would you feel if you or your kids
facilities.
were exposed to it? Would you not mind
Certainly,
that?
it's a concern. It's a concern that we all share, and it's important that we recognise that these events are communicated properly. There is no safety significance, no safety consequence. However, the information and the details are reported. A number of these events has been reported on the website of our nuclear investment company.
Why didn't you report it the day it happens? Isn't that simple
the
enough?
The details are not always readily available at the time, and these events do need to go through the regulatory channels before they can be fully understood, and then the correct level and the correct information is reported. Now, we're currently working to shorten that timescale down. We're working with our partners on this, and we would hope that within a very short time we could actually have a much faster mechanism.
Okay, so
for
before
reporting.
I move away from this topic, this issue, I want to ask one last question. If you're going to build more nuclear plants to achieve this target of low carbon economy, 50% reliance on nuclear energy, you're going to have to build one, maybe more nuclear plants. Will you sleep easy at night? Would you worry about your children that we're surrounded by nuclear energy power stations?
It's a very valid question. Let me answer it this way. I worry more about the impact of climate change for my children than I do about nuclear safety. I work in the industry. I understand the implications of climate change. I understand the consequences of that. I understand the dramatic change that's needed, not just in the way that we produce energy, but the way that we consume energy in order to address the impacts of climate change.
So you don't mind...
I understand as well how nuclear safety is managed.
There's no
And I
such thing
feel
as a safe nuclear power plant, right?
the industry has taken tremendous steps to improve the safety and to also improve the reporting. I feel more confident about nuclear safety than I do about the consequences of climate change.
So you rather swap taking some level of risk to have nuclear power stations so that you can cut back on climate change. Is that right?
I see that if we continue the way that we are using a lot of coal-fired energy to produce electricity. The coal mining industry is not a safe industry, as we've seen from experiences in New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
So the production of energy, if we continue along the path of using more coal and continuing to use coal...
I don't think anybody wants that.
I agree with that, and I think that that's necessary that we reduce the amount of coal that we use. Now, the choices that we have are essentially gas-fired power. Now,
renewable energy or
gas
nuclear.
doesn't eliminate carbon emissions.
Whereas nuclear does.
Nuclear does, and renewable power does.
Okay. Well, let me just ask you this then. We'll move away from that, and we'll ask you this. Some green groups in Hong Kong make the point, they argue, that instead of, if you want to achieve, if you want to cut back on emissions, if you want to go for cleaner fuels, cleaner energy, there's no need to have a reliance on nuclear power, build another plant on our doorstep. It's better if we just cut back on energy use. And green groups say if you cut back on energy use in Hong Kong by 25% or thereabouts, you don't even need to build another nuclear power station. Would you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that. I think that it's the right step that we need to reduce the amount of energy
But
that
it's
we're
encouraging
using.
people to use more energy rather than less. Just, all right, we'll move to a cleaner fuel so you can use as much as you want.
No. The message needs to be that we need to reduce the amount of energy that we currently consume. We need to be more efficient,
Right.
and we
But
need
we're
to
not
use
doing
less.
that, Mr. Lancaster. We're not doing that.
Around the world, there are.
In Hong Kong, there is no clear. There may be in New York, there may be in London, but there is no clear plan in Hong Kong to say to the people, cut back on energy use. There isn't. What we say to the people is, fossil fuels are dirty, we'll move to clean fuels. So you go to nuclear energy, but you're not saying to the people, cut back on energy use.
The government is saying that. We are saying that as well. We actually encourage our customers to be more energy efficient. We help them to become better users of energy. Many governments and many utilities around the world are taking steps to try and change consumers' behavior. Now, changing consumers' behavior is not an easy thing to do.
We're not doing it in a concerted way where we're not having a clear-cut policy on that, are we?
I think if you look at the government's consultation document, a number of steps have been proposed, including changing building energy codes, changing the towards cleaner forms of transportation, such as electric vehicles, taking steps to further promote energy efficiency and conservation. Now, on the one hand, you could argue that that is not sufficient.
Yeah,
that
I think the green groups are saying it's
that.
not sufficient.
But the question would remain is, can you achieve the level of carbon reductions that will be needed to meet a target of 50 to 60% in carbon intensity within 10 years solely through energy efficiency and conservation measures? I think that would be extremely challenging, given that if you look at the energy that we're producing, predominantly it's coming from coal-fired power. So if we think that we can continue to use coal-fired power, not touch our energy mix, and just save the amount of energy, then that is going to be a tremendous reduction in energy. I don't believe that that is.
All right,
I think that
we'll take a break and we'll come back to that.
Okay.
See you soon. Don't go away.